So just to introduce Brittany a little bit to all of you, Brittany is a 500-hour experienced registered yoga teacher, as well as a certified mindfulness meditation teacher. And in her free time, she is also a beautiful writer. You can experience all of her beautiful musings and writings through social media. And I really encourage you to go and follow her so that you can absorb the wisdom that she is constantly sharing. She is currently based in Costa Rica, where she is leading 200-hour teacher trainings with the Lakshmi Rising Yoga School. So you can go and train in person in paradise. And then she leads retreats all over the world. Her next retreat will be in Portugal. And we'll point you to where you can learn more about everything that Brittany has going on before the end of this conversation. And then you'll also be directed to her website during this conversation, but also in the newsletter about her series. And very exciting, Brittany and I actually have a fun announcement for all of our IDM subscribers. You guys are going to find out first. Our community here at IDM is going to find out first next week. So stay tuned for a really fun and special announcement for something that Brittany and I are co-curating together that we look forward to sharing with you. We're so excited to welcome everybody in the community to this conversation today. Brittany is launching her brand new Vital Recharge series, which is incredibly special for us here at Interdimension TV because it is going to revolve around one of the most important topics for IDM TV community members, which is Yin Yoga. Yin Yoga is an especially hot topic here for us at IDM, something that we know our members enjoy probably just as much or maybe even more so than anything else that we offer. And this time, what Brittany is really interweaving into it are the meridians. And this is something that we have not done on Interdimension TV before. And it is an incredible topic that Brittany has experienced so much education and personal practice in, and we cannot wait to share it with you. So as we start to talk about this series a little bit, I think one of the most important things that we can do to begin with is just to really connect with Brittany and of course with each other. You know, a lot of you know Brittany from her classes on the platform, but you might not have had a chance to get to know Brittany personally. So Brittany, welcome from the jungle of Costa Rica. And just so people know who are joining live, Brittany is in the jungle. So if Wi-Fi is a little bit in and out, we have a plan. There might be a little bit of a delay here and there, and that's totally okay. And, you know, I just want to start off, Brittany, by saying thank you so much for joining us in the midst of all you have going on, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to be back in Costa Rica. I just got back to my home yesterday, but I'm really happy to be here with all of you. So thank you all so much for being here today. It's great to see you. So many familiar names popping up.
It's always so fun to have that experience here on these calls, to see so many of our familiar community members. Well, and I think that that's kind of a great entry point into this, is that, you know, right now here you are in Costa Rica, but we would love to hear just more about your story and your background and some of what you've faced in your life that really brought you to this point and ultimately brought you to yoga.
Yeah. So let's see, where do I start? I guess from the beginning. I was born and raised in California. So I was born in San Jose, not San Jose, Costa Rica, but San Jose, California. And I spent the first 18 years of my life up there. I have wonderful parents, my mom and dad, as well as my sister. And, you know, it's really interesting because for me, I like to say that I'm a recovering perfectionist. I am definitely a type A personality. And I would say that pretty much my whole life, I have been sort of that work hard mentality kind of person. And it's not something that was given to me. It's not that my parents told me to really push really hard or that I had to get straight A's or do anything in particular, but that is just my personality. I'm innately this hardworking, if you will. I like to put that in air quotes because what does hardworking even really mean? But this hardworking person. But that also came along with a lot of anxiety growing up. And so as far back as I can remember, I had anxiety. I remember even specifically, I remember being in third grade getting anxious about spelling tests. And so that's kind of my childhood was really amazing and my family was so incredible. But one of the things that I remember most about my childhood is always striving for perfection, or always striving to be something more, whatever that means. And so, um, you know, I already kind of had that innate anxiety, if you will, growing up. And then when I was 15, my dad passed away. And that was an extremely challenging time in my life. I was really close to my dad. And being a teenager is hard enough. And then to lose the person that you're closest with was a very, very challenging time. That came with not only anxiety that was already there for me, but also led into depression as well. And it was just a really challenging event that happened in my life that kind of put me on this trajectory to where I am today. So although it was one of the hardest things that I ever had to go through in life, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone, at the same time, I feel like the lessons that I've learned from that journey and those experiences have been some of the most incredible lessons as well. And so my journey with yoga, it actually started in college, but I'm going to put a little like asterisk there because it didn't really start until my like mid to late 20s. But when I was 21, when I was going to Loyola Marymount University, I was going into my senior year and I needed an extra credit for a class, just one credit. And I was like, oh, do I want to take Spanish again? Didn't know I'd end up living in Costa Rica. Or do I want to, what do I want to take? And it was like, oh, yoga, this is 2 credits. That'll be easy. I'll take that. So that was my first experience with yoga. And actually, it was really amazing because I, like many people, thought that it was about the physical practice. I had no idea what yoga was truly about and the philosophy of yoga and how deep it is and the traditions behind not only yogic philosophy, but we'll be talking also a little bit about in the Yin Yoga tradition, Taoist philosophy as well. And so it really was an incredible experience for me. It really touched my heart to have these practices, especially as a senior in college. And it's kind of funny because my teacher, she pulled me aside at the end of the semester and she said, we have yoga too. I'd love for you to take it next semester. I see something in you. I think that you would really enjoy it and you really like it. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. But then when I went and looked at the schedule and it said that the only time it was offered was 8 a.m. my second semester senior year, I was out. I was a night owl at the time. And I was like, no way, I'm getting up early to go to go take this class. And so I didn't take it. And I didn't actually go back to yoga for several years, probably 5, 6, almost 7 years that I was away from yoga. And then I was working at the time in production, and I was extremely stressed out. And my boss at the time gave me a 5-class pack to a local yoga studio for my birthday, and that's how I got back into it. And it was actually that job. I haven't told many people this story, so this is kind of a fun little tidbit. When I was working at that job, it was a manufacturing job downtown LA. We were manufacturing a photography product, and because I was in photography and film at the time. And every day I would sit at my desk and eat my lunch, and I would read the blog Mind Body Green. And I would sit there, and that's all I wanted to do was just read the blog every day and have my lunch. And one day the blog pops up and it was from a yoga teacher named Lauren Eckstrom, and her blog post really resonated with me. And I thought it just really was amazing the way that she spoke and how eloquent she was, and the things she said just completely resonated with me. So I looked her up. I'm like, Lauren Eckstrom, where is she? She's probably in New York or something. I'm like, oh, she's in LA too. And so I took my first yoga class with Lauren, and that's kind of what started me on my journey of teaching as well. So that's sort of me and my yoga journey in a little bit of a nutshell. But also I started actually practicing meditation before I got serious with a physical asana practice. So I started practicing meditation in my mid-20s, and that's actually what guided me back to the physical practice of yoga as well.
Thank you so much. It's so beautiful. And for those that don't know, I've known Brittany a very long time, and I remember that first class that you came to, and from there, Brittany has been in our lives. It's been, I don't know, probably close to 10 years, if not maybe longer. Brittany came in and did our teacher training, and then designed our book that we have, and she photographed our wedding. Brittany's been an essential part to Interdimension before Interdimension existed. And I think a lot of you can tell how in alignment she is with the holistic side of the practice. And you see that interwoven in the years as I've been able to watch your journey grow and expand, and the additional education that you've taken on, and the self-study and the work that you've done. And now you've been interweaving sound healing and working with the sound bowls and so many beautiful things that you offer. One of the things that I think is really interesting, and probably something that a lot of people who are attracted to the practice of yoga and to Interdimension TV as part of our community, is this quiet background theme that you touched into of perfectionism and being a type A personality and striving and efforting. And it's so interesting to me that so many of us who kind of fall into that category, I would put myself in that category as well, end up being attracted to and teaching what would be considered the hardest practices for those of us that fall into that category. You know, for me, restorative yoga, and for you, yin yoga. And this perception that I've really am starting to adopt and take on more in terms of rest as a form of resistance to a dominant paradigm that really is causing a lot of people to think that they're not enough, that they aren't worthy just as they are inherently. And really the importance in terms of our longevity and our wellness, you living in one of the blue zones in the world, really understanding the importance of rest and healing and nourishment for our nervous systems. And I would love to hear kind of what your inspiration was for wanting to create this series, and how maybe some of those themes tie into what it is you bring to the series. So tell us all about it.
Yeah. So this series, Vital Recharge, you hit the nail on the head, right? I feel as though this is a series that really invites us to slow down. And it is something that a lot of us resist. And we feel as though we have to earn rest, or we have to wait until we add it into our lives. I know for myself, it was always kind of something where it was like, oh, well, once I check all these things off my list, then I can meditate, or then I can do something for myself, or then I can. And I really wanted to create a series that gives us the opportunity to reconnect to ourselves and to slow ourselves down, and not only the physical practice, but also giving ourselves time to pay attention to our inner world as well. And so this series, I'm really into practices that tap into our subtle anatomy and this energetic layer of our being. So if for those of you who practice with me in Awakening the Chakras, you know that we go through the practices for these different energy centers. And so I wanted to kind of create that Yin series to the Yang series that I had already created, which had a Yin class, but it was mostly vinyasa and power vinyasa flow practices. And so I find that these Yin practices are so very important, and Yin as in Yin Yoga, as well as meditation, just all these practices that help us slow down. Because one of the things that I started becoming very aware of during the pandemic was a lot of times, so I worked in corporate wellness during the pandemic, and so many of these companies were like, oh, it's a pandemic, let's bring in meditation, let's bring in all these calming things. And then as soon as things opened back up, or it was over, it was kind of like, okay, we don't need that anymore. And what I've actually found is that this right now is the time that we need it most, because we're navigating a completely new time in our lives. We don't know how this new norm is going to fit within our own lives and our own experiences. And so in order for us to kind of take that healthy step back and look around the world and say, how do I want to move from here? Rather than going back to the place of, oh yeah, this is the job that I had, or this is the way I did things. Maybe I take a step back and ask myself, okay, how is it that I want to show up in the world now? Because the world is different and our own individual worlds are different as well as the world around us. And so this series is one that I really hope gives us that opportunity to connect with ourselves and also really turn inward so that we have that opportunity to be who we really are rather than who we think that we're supposed to be or what we were before. The pandemic, even though an extremely challenging time in this world, has also given us an opportunity to start again and to maybe do things a little bit differently. And so this practice, this series, these practices of yin, whether it is yin yoga or the meditation, I'm really hoping that these are practices that can give you permission to completely not only slow down, but also to love yourself just as you are, that you don't have to change anything else, that you don't have to strive for something, or like we were talking about before, striving for perfection. My hope is that you can find some space and time to say, I am more than okay, and I am more than enough exactly the way that I am. And I think sometimes when we slow down and we have practices like yin yoga practice or meditation, we're confronted with ourselves and we're really shown who we really are. And that's also a beautiful thing, so that we can ask ourselves, who do I really want to be as well? So yeah, that's my intention behind this series. And one of the main aspects that Lauren mentioned too is the meridians. And the meridians are really an important aspect of yin yoga that many teachers actually weave into their teachings of a yin yoga practice, but you as students maybe just don't even know it. But we get into, in a yin yoga practice, we get into the fascia or the connective tissues in the body, but it's not just the physical connective tissues for flexibility that we're getting into, but the connective tissues are sort of like the land, if you will, through which the highways of energy move. And those are the meridians. So some traditions say there are 72,000 nadis or meridians. Some traditions say there's over 350,000. And in this series, don't worry, I'm not going to do 350,000 different meridians. We're going to stick to the 14 main meridians in traditional Chinese medicine and the Taoist philosophy, which is what Yin Yoga is actually rooted in. So yeah, I'm hoping that this will be not only a wonderful series for you to get connected to yourself more, but also to connect to the true roots of what a Yin Yoga practice is actually really about.
So beautiful, because I remember coming out of the pandemic, one of the things that I so often heard people say was, I learned so much during the course of the pandemic. I don't want to forget the lessons that I learned. I don't want to go back to the way that I was showing up in the world and in my job and in my family and my life, the way that I was before. And in speaking to, in the corporate wellness space, as an example, these practices suddenly not being necessary, we are so quick to go back. And in some ways that sounds attractive, right? Like if I could just go back to the way things were before, then all of this pain and trauma and heartbreak and loss and, whatever that happened during that period of time, then maybe it's just like we could kind of skim over those years. But really, we know that in those hardships, there are some of the most beautiful and important lessons. And really what I hear you saying is that vital recharge is an opportunity for integration, for us to take the lessons of that period of time, but also this new period of time that we're in, wherever we are in our lives, and to really integrate those lessons. Now, the series as a total is made up of 7 Yin Yoga classes, but supplemented with that, you've also created 6 beautiful meditations to go along with it. And I know one of the things that is so exciting for Interdimension TV community members is this addressing of the meridians. It was something that Travis very purposely left out of his Yin Yoga book, which I know so many of you have read. There are a lot of different reasons for that. And at some point, I'll let him talk about why that choice was made. We spent a lot of time talking about it. But now it's a topic that we can really get into in this new way with Brittany. And so along with that, what I love about this series, and every time, Brittany, you create a series, is that it's more than just a yoga series. It also feels like a mini training, because what comes along with that is this downloadable PDF. And inside of that PDF, that always, just so for everybody who's tuning in and listening, when the series comes out, there's the series page on Interdimension TV. And then when you go to the main series page, if you haven't done this before, go check it out, because in so many of our series and programs, there's also a download button for the PDFs that go along with the series and programs that have those. So Brittany created a whole PDF that goes along with this that is filled with journal prompts, but also additional education on the meridians. So you don't have to be intellectual during your practices. You can go and reference that after the practice and have a hard copy and something in writing to really look at, especially for those of you who are visual. But what I think would be great to hear a little bit about, Brittany, or, if we're coming into this program and coming into this series with these Yin Yoga classes, how is each class different? How long are the classes? And what does the series in total, what does the calendar kind of look like? What could someone expect who's going to be going through this whole series?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So just like my Awakening the Chakras series, this is also a 28-day series. And what I wanted to also leave room for in this series, because in Awakening the Chakras, there was a yoga practice as well as a supplemental meditation every single day. And I find that sometimes integrating a Yin Yoga practice into our lives can be kind of challenging sometimes, especially if we maybe do have a more yang practice or something that's a stronger practice, whether we're a runner or we do practice power flow or we practice, HIIT practices or whatever, we go to the gym. And so what I wanted to do was make sure that there was time where we didn't feel like we had to stop everything else and just completely do this. But I wanted to be able to let the practices weave into your daily life. So it's 28 days, and starting day 1, there's a 30-minute Yin Yoga practice. Day 2, there's a 10 to 15-minute meditation. Day 3 is Yin. So it alternates. Every other day is Yin Yoga practice, and every other day is meditation. So on the days that either maybe when you're practicing in yoga or during the days that there are meditation practices, you get the yin that you need and that calm and that lunar energy, but you can also do other practices that are right for you and that you might need as well. So the practices, again, the Yin Yoga practices are each 30 minutes. And there's also a very special practice. So actually, let me pull the reins on myself for a second. Each of the Yin Yoga practices correlates to a yin and yang meridian duo. And they go along with the traditional Chinese medicine organs in the body. And the organs are not just the physical organs themselves, but also the energies that are within every single cell of our being that correlate to that organ system. And so each of the practices, specifically, there's 5 practices that are each of the duos. There's also a practice that is all of the meridians as well. And then the special practice that I jumped the gun on before, which is a special self-massage and acupressure practice as well. So we use the traditional Chinese medicine philosophies to stimulate different acupressure points in the body that go along with the meridians and these flows of energy. And also we do a little bit of auriculotherapy, which is reflexology for the ears, as well as reflexology for the hands and the feet too. So the cool thing about that one is that one's at the end of every single week. So you get to do that one 4 times. So that was my favorite. And again, like Lauren said, one of the things that I really wanted to avoid was people intellectualizing too much during the classes. So I don't get into, you know, all of the nitty-gritty details about these meridians. I say a couple of things in the practices, but I also wanted to create that space so that you could have your true yin yoga practice. So the workbook, that's where the workbook comes in. So for those of you who love to dive in and to learn and say, huh, I wonder what that meridian duo does, or what it's about, or what season it goes along with, or the emotions it goes along with, and get into the journal prompts, you can do that. But if you just want to take the series for what it is without diving into all of the details right away too, it's up to you. You can kind of navigate it however you would like.
It's such an important point, because I think one of the big questions we're often being asked individually through social media DMs, but also, you know, emails coming into the website is, can I do this along with something else? Or what else do you do? And I know that this is a question that I get asked a lot. You know, I strength train, I train zone 2 on an almost daily basis. I learned several years ago that that was very important when my mom was diagnosed with early onset osteoporosis. And the truth is, you know, that there's so much research and science that shows how important yoga is for us, but also we need these other modalities in order to keep the skeletal structure strong and the muscular structure strong, so that as we age, we age well. So I love the idea that I can actually do both hand in hand, and that 30 minutes is so achievable. And what a beautiful way to really bookend your day. So thank you for breaking that down for people. So for everybody who's tuning in and going to do this series, how awesome it is that you're going to be able to do this in partnership with whatever else it is that you do, whether that's more power yoga practices on interdimension or those other cross training activities. What I would love is to know, is there a way that right now, as we sit here, can we tap into our meridian system? Is there something that we could do right now as a collective, you know, a practice, you know, for all of us who are here live, that we can do and activate some of these meridians?
Yeah, that's a really good, I love it. I love like actually doing the thing, right? Rather than just talking about it. So I would love to lead us through just a few of these acupressure points that we can use in order to calm ourselves down. And specifically, we're going to do like 4 or 5. And they are specifically linked to the traditional Chinese medicine element of water. And that is with the kidney and bladder meridian duo. And this is really closely related to things like the emotion of fear, or when we resist change. And it can really help us to, when imbalanced, we can come into our own inner wisdom, and we can help to check in with ourselves, and also to help us kind of go with the flow, if you will. So the water element going with the flow. So let's start with what's called the emotional reset button, and that's called the yin tang point. So it's in the middle of the forehead, kind of where the third eye is located. So you can either take your fingers and rub the middle of the forehead, or if you want to tap here, you can as well. You can even move around a little bit. So in acupuncture, it's really important for the point to be very precise. And for some of you who've done acupuncture before, maybe you've had a needle placed here in your forehead at the beginning of your session, because it helps to calm us down. But in acupressure, we can use multiple fingers to kind of get that general area so that we can stimulate this acupressure point, but also give ourselves a little bit of a self-massage too. So let's take a couple more moments with the yin tang point. You might even find a tender spot in the middle of your forehead. It feels like it needs a little bit of extra love. Let's take one more inhale into this point. And then as you exhale, release your hand down and pause for a moment. Just notice what you feel there. So maybe you feel a tingling sensation or warmth, a little bit of energy moving in the forehead. And then the next point that we're going to work with is kidney 1. And if you don't have access to the bottom of your foot, you can just take your attention to the bottom of your foot. And if you do, we're just going to take our fingers to the center of the foot. So it's about a third of the way down from the toes. And you can just press into the center of your foot, or again, using your mind, energetically pressing into that space. And it's between the second and third metatarsal of the foot. So between the second and third toe. Just give yourself a little massage there. Or again, if you don't have access to your feet, imagine yourself in your mind energetically massaging that point, the beginning of the kidney meridian. And again, when we massage these acupressure points, we also have an opportunity to find a tender spot. So even if it's not exactly on that exact acupressure point, when we find the tender spot, oftentimes that's the place that needs a little bit of regulation, a little bit of balance for the energy. Take a couple more moments with this. Kidney 1. Deep breath in. Exhale, release. And we'll take all of our attention from the bottom of the foot all the way up to the bottoms of the collarbones, and take your fingertips. So not right here in the center of the collarbone, but about halfway to the outer edge of the collarbone and right below, and give yourself a massage here. So again, kind of palpate for that tender spot. And this is kidney 27. So this is the end of the kidney meridian line. Start to breathe a little bit deeper and just notice what you feel. Couple more breaths. There's nothing in particular that you have to feel. Just pay attention to what's here. Now release your hands down and just take a moment to breathe. And let's start by taking our middle fingers or first fingers to the insides of the eyes, right about here where the nose and the eye connect. Just take a couple of moments right here. This is bladder 1, urinary bladder 1. So this is where it begins. So the yang organ meridians start from the bottom of the body or start from down, and they work their way up the body. And the yang meridians, sorry, I don't know if I said that incorrectly. The yin meridians start from the bottom and work their way up, and the yang meridians start from the top and work their way down. So this is the yang organ, the bladder, to the yin kidney. And then let's take our fingers and kind of trace them up our forehead and then to the sides of the head. And then just give yourself a little bit of a massage here on the sides of the head from the front to the back. And maybe around the mid-head toward the back. This is around bladder 7 and 8. And this helps to give us a little bit of that gentle recharge, that letting go. And then we'll take our fingers of one hand inward toward the center of the head and just a little bit further back and start to palpate in the center of the head. Even though this is not along the bladder meridian, it's along the meridian called Du Mai. And this is a space that helps to regulate both upward and downward flows of energy. And all of the meridians, or energy, I should say, not all the meridians, but energy converges at the top of the head. So this is a really good place that helps to regulate all of our meridians. Take a couple more breaths. And now release your hands back down. We're going to get into just a couple more for the bladder and then we'll wrap this up. But I invite you to take your hands, if it's accessible for you, to the sides of your back, beside your spine. And if not, you can go to the corner of a wall or maybe on your chair and just kind of give your back a little bit of a rub. So I'm just going to lean back here And maybe if it's accessible, to massage the muscles along the sides of the spine. So not down the middle of the spine, but the sides of the spine. From the top where the shoulder blades are all the way down toward the hips and the pelvis, bladder 12 through 54. So another good way to do this, if you're wanting to spend more time, is to lay on your back and to rock from side to side. So that's also a good way to get into the bladder meridian. Let's take a few more moments. Deep breath in, long exhale. Release your hands, or if you are using something, sit yourself back up and just notice what you feel for a moment. And then let's take that energy of water and fluidity and wisdom and introspection, and bring it full circle. And so either with your mind or with your hands, take your hand to the outer edge of your pinky toe and just give it a little bit of a massage. And this is bladder 67. This is where the bladder meridian ends. It can be one or both of the pinky toes. You kind of imagine a circular flow of energy from the bottom of your foot all the way up through the front side of the body, from the inner aspects of your eyes, the tops of your head, both sides of the head, down through your back, the back sides of the legs, and into your pinky toe. Take one more deep breath in like this. Exhale, release your hands into stillness, and let's just take a couple of moments, either with the eyes closed or with a soft gaze downward. You might place your hands on your heart and just know that everything starts with the self. When we can pay attention to what is going on within, our fears, our doubts, our worries, anger or grief that's there, we can start to get valuable information for what it is that we would like to invite in, what we need to bring in for more harmony, joy, contentment, letting things flow, courage, confidence. And when we can invite harmony to ourselves as much as possible, it doesn't have to be all the time. But when we bring ourselves into balance, that in turn ultimately brings harmony and balance to the world around us as well. I invite you to take a full deep breath in and a full exhale out. And as you're ready, we can come back together by blinking our eyes open with a little reset for the kidney and bladder meridian duo. And just for those of you who want to, a little, you can do this on your own, but one of the journal prompts for the water element in this series is how can I invite more simplicity to my life? So that's something that maybe you can contemplate a little bit today. How can we invite a little more simplicity into our daily lives? Thank you.
Oh, that was divine. I needed that. Thank you so much. I would love to hear from people who are joining live. Did you, because we can't see all of you on screen, did you do that? How good do you feel? You know, one of the things that I hear again and again and again when we go on retreat is people will come and tell us, oh, I've done this program, I've done that program. But the truth is I skip the massage, the meditations. The truth is I skip the restorative yoga practices. And I get it, you know, because of so much of what we've talked about, that we live in this culture and this time that tells us, like, if I'm not burning calories, if I'm not getting my steps in, if my strain isn't going up, then somehow it's not valuable. But really, just, I mean, from sitting here and like putting your hands on your forehead, the vital recharge of that is so valuable. And I hope that that gives everybody who's going to do the series, everybody who's listening now or to the recording, that you don't skip the self massage practice, because I think that that's the one probably in this series where people will be like, oh, well, I'll just focus on the yin and I'll skip the self massage. So I hope that that gave you a taste of it and why it's so important. Oh, good. Suzanne, I can't stop yawning. So that's amazing, because what that's a sign of is your vagus nerve being settled. It's a sign of being regulated. So I just taught this in one of our classes we just shot for our March shoot, where we're working with the vagus nerve. And when we start yawning or laughing, or if we have like a bunch of digestive sounds in our stomach, that's a really good sign that we've headed into that parasympathetic side of the nervous system. So that's amazing and beautiful. Well, I would love to jump into some of the questions. And I know one of the questions that's already been asked in the chat that I think is a question that so many people have is, should this series be done in the morning or the night? And do you have a particular opinion about where and when people should be doing these classes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one that I get often. And I also get that question, especially about meditation. And my answer to that question is everyone's going to be different. So for some people, it's going to be something that they want to do in the morning and start their day with. With other people, it's something they want to end their day with. Me personally, I prefer to finish my day with a calming practice. So I like to go with nature. Clearly, I'm just literally sitting in the middle of nature right now, with what nature does. And in the morning, the sun is rising, it's getting hotter, and that's where we start to kind of amp up our energy for the rest of our day. And then when the sun starts to go down, when it starts to get cooler, that's when we cool our bodies down. So I personally prefer to do this practice in the evenings before bed. But again, everybody's going to be a little bit different. So I encourage you to try it out in different ways, and whatever works best for you, not only for your schedule, but actually what feels best for you in your body is great. So for some people, they wake up with anxiety. And so to get the day started, they like to calm themselves down. And so it could be something that you could do at the beginning of the day. But I know for me personally, yin usually comes at the end of the day. I'm going to be taking a yin practice back at the sanctuary tonight. So I'm really excited for that. Yeah, so that's my recommendation. Check out what works best for you, but try it in the evenings if you can. The meditations you can do whenever you would like also. I prefer to actually meditate in the morning. For me, once I get my day started, once I'm on that to-do list, I have a hard time sitting myself down after that. I usually like to do the meditations in the morning and the yin in the evening, but whatever works for you is lovely as well.
Same for me, same across the board. Christy, and for everybody who's here with us today, is there anybody that has a question or a story or something that you want to come on and ask and share? We would love to see you and connect with you. So you can raise your little hand icon and Christy will call on you and unmute you and turn your video on if you have any questions. And then you can always pop those in the Q&A as well.
I think there were some questions in the chat also that I want to make sure that I get to as well.
Yeah, we had Glenn, actually, one of our members at Interdimension, ask about the workbook. Is it going to be similar to the Awakening of the Chakras, or any more details about the workbook?
Yeah, so the workbook is going to be very similar to Awakening the Chakras. There will be a section for each of the meridian pairs, as well as the traditional Chinese medicine elements as well. They're a little bit different than the elements that we learn about in a yogic philosophy, which we usually think about earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And in traditional Chinese medicine, it's earth, metal, water, wood, and fire. So there's a little bit that goes into that as well. Each of the sections go with each of the days. There are journal prompts. So it's very, very similar to the Awakening the Chakras workbook in that manner, and a lot of good tidbits. I'll also go over what each of the points in the self-massage acupressure practice are and how they correlate to each of the meridians and which points they are, because I don't tell you within the practice, oh, okay, now we're doing, liver 6, and then we're doing spleen, 24. I want to make sure that we're not too in our heads when we're doing that practice. So that information will be there as well. Yeah, so that's the workbook. I also saw a question that came in also from my second cousin, Michelle, is here. Hi, Michelle. And she was asking if these practices could be done in a chair, because I know she does my chair yoga practices on YouTube. These practices are done on the floor. So I'm sure that there are ways that you can modify it, but you can definitely do the self-massage practice in a chair. So wherever you feel comfortable, that's absolutely fine. I'm trying to remember, there's only one time where we stand, and I think maybe we don't stand at all. I can't remember. I think that there's only, if we stand, it's only once. And so you can sit yourself in any comfortable place, but most of the practices will be done all the way down on the ground. So you don't have to worry about standing or balancing in that kind of way. And, we've been practicing, some of us have been practicing together for a really long time too. And that I'm so much about making modifications that feel good for you. So even if it's something like, let's say we're down on the ground and we're doing a half butterfly pose where we have one leg out to the side and a leg straight, and that doesn't feel good for you. Even just coming to a seat and crossing a leg over in front of you in your seat can be enough for you as well. So even though I don't give the modifications for being in a chair, that whatever feels best for you is the way to go. And so if you need to make modifications, or even like we did in our practice right now, if just visualizing yourself in that shape, even if your body can't get into that shape, it actually has a really powerful effect on the body. And the mind doesn't know the difference between what it's actually doing and what's happening in front of us and what's happening on the screen of the mind. So if you visualize yourself in that position that you can't physically be in, you'll get similar effects in the body as well.
Thank you, Brittany. It actually looks like Michelle has another question or has a comment. So Michelle, I'm going to turn your video on. Thank you. Wait,
hi, Michelle. Minutes.
I think she's still muted.
Michelle, Michelle, did you want to unmute yourself to ask the question?
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, there we go. So basically what I wanted to say was, that yes, she brought that up. Her chair yogas have gotten me to where I can now get in and out of the bathtub and I can get on the floor, but a lot of things, as she knows, I can't really do a lot of bending because I broke my leg many times. And, but that's why I was just curious, but I did want to, resend on the fact is that if anybody is in a wheelchair or anything like that, please go to those YouTube channels and follow them, because I myself was in a wheelchair for 2.5 years when I crossed paths with my cousin again. And I can now walk, drive, get into a bathtub, and I could never do that before. So getting into this new meditation with her is going to be amazing. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I love you.
Thank you.
Amazing. I can't wait to share these practices with you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. And Brittany, there was a question in the chat too about certain acupressure points that maybe you can address.
Okay, let's see here. Where is this question?
Looks like it's the last chat. Yep.
Is the Do My point the same as the By Who point? I'm taking Qigong lessons and sometimes the acupressure points have different names. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for that question, Jan. That's a really good question. I am not going to pretend to know the answer to that. I'm not sure. I don't practice Qigong. It's actually something that I'm starting to practice, but I'm not super familiar with all of the points quite yet. And so maybe that point is on that same meridian line of the Do My meridian, but I'm not 100% sure. Also, traditional Chinese medicine has names for a lot of these different points that unfortunately I'm not an acupuncturist, and so I don't know all of the individual points by specific name, but I do know that that's called Do My 20, and it may be that same point that you're referencing. So I really wish that I could tell you yes or no in that way. And actually, I'm going to go and Google it after this because I'm kind of curious if that is that same point, and it may be. But yeah, I don't know. And now I'm going to learn some more because I'll go and check it out and see if it is. Thank you for the question.
Great. Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah, of course. Are there any other questions for me personally or about the series?
Oh, it looks like
I'm an open book.
Looks like we have time for one more question. It looks like Abdi has a question, so I will be turning your camera on for 1 second. Abdi, give it a few seconds.
No problem. Hi, Abdi. You're muted. There we go.
I'm unmuted right now.
No, we can hear you now.
I don't know, my camera's not working, but oh, yeah.
There you are. Hi.
Hey, how you doing, Lauren?
Oh, it's so good to see you.
As always. It's not a more question, it's more about a comment. Thank you. I know when you say your first class was Lauren's, my first class was Lauren and Travis in prison, where I'm still am. So there has been, their practice has been life-changing, not only for me, but also for the whole facility, for the whole prison. Because it's almost like, they hooked us and then we went all and in a good way. So I just want to say I enjoyed the conversation. It was really great. I'm a huge fan of Yin Yoga, because introduction to by Travis and Lauren. So I want to say thank you. I appreciate it. And this is something I want to take with me. And I want to say hello to Lauren too. Lauren.
Oh, you're making me cry. I miss you guys so much. I'm so glad to see you. And, Brittany, so important because Abdi also teaches. So everything that's coming out in Brittany's series, I think you're going to be able to integrate into not just your personal practice, but into the classes. And we also have a new Yin Yoga and restorative yoga training that's going to be a 50-hour training that is going to be coming out soon. So we're filming that in April. So you'll have lots of yin and yumminess to be tapping into very soon. I'm so glad to see you.
Thank you. All right. Say
so
hello
wonderful
to
to see you.
Oh, he's gonna be be so jealous that he missed you.
All right.
Thank you, Abdi.
Thank you, Abdi.
Thank you. Amazing. Amazing.
Great.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining this call, whether it was live or via the recording. Brittany's series, Vital Recharge, comes out this Wednesday. So that'll be your release this week. Your new practice will be more than just I'm crying too, Debbie.
Me too. Me too.
We're all crying.
Is it sweat? Is it tears? I don't know.
That's what makes these community conversations just my absolute favorite. so many of you, seeing your names and your faces and getting this time together is so special. And one of the things that is important for us here at Interdimension is that we are giving back to you guys on a constant basis. And these community events this year, coming together for these conversations, is part of our seva, part of our karma yoga and giving back. And as part of that, we ask the people that join us for these conversations if they have a particular nonprofit or organization that they're feeling particularly passionate about. And for Brittany, that is Farmers Footprint. So if you're not familiar with Farmers Footprint, it's an organization that is also close to my heart and to Travis's heart. Their website is just farmersfootprint.us. It's a coalition of farmers, educators, doctors, scientists, and business leaders aiming to expose the human and environmental impacts of chemical farming and supporting the health of our soil, food, people, planet, to offer a path forward through regenerative agriculture practices. And for anybody that follows along on social media, you know that this is close to my heart and Travis's heart as we, created our own organic garden in our backyard. So we really encourage you to go check out that organization. And Brittany, if people want to connect with you personally and learn more about your events and your writing and your retreats, where are the best places for them to connect with you personally?
Yeah, I would love to connect with all of you. So I am on Instagram as Beautifully Awakening. That's my Instagram name. And that's also my website, beautifullyawakening.com. So I do have a retreat that's coming up. Actually, this is kind of the final call, if you will. Like in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be closing signups, and we have 1 or 2 rooms left. And so if you are interested and you're on this call, I would love to offer you the early bird discount for that too. So even though early bird discount pricing is over, my friends at Interdimension TV, if you'd like to join me on that, you can. And then more information about upcoming things too. Some really awesome classes coming up on Interdimension TV. I was just filming last week with all of you. So we have some fun ones coming up. And then as Lauren mentioned, we've got some exciting news that we're going to be sharing next week, is it? Or yeah, right? So all of you that are with Interdimension TV, you'll all hear about it first. And I'm really excited. But please feel free to connect with me on Instagram or through my website as well. And I'm a super open book. I would love to connect with you. So feel free to send me a DM or send me a message through my website. And I would absolutely love that too. So thank you all so much.
And not to keep everybody hanging, but you will hear our special announcement if you're an IDM TV member on April 6th. So you're going to get an email about our special announcement from myself and Brittany on April 6th. So something to look forward to as members. As always, thank you to everybody who is tuning in live or watching this recording later. You are the reason we exist. You are the reason we keep showing up. Your practice is for this collective. It makes a difference in the world. We are so grateful. Christy, thank you for being our amazing community manager. And Brittany, thank you for coming out of the jungle and finding an internet connection and joining us for this amazing conversation. And we cannot wait to share your series with everybody on Wednesday. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you in the Facebook group and online, and we can't wait to hear all about your experience with Vital Recharge. The next conversation is going to be on April 14th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with Mr. Travis Elliott himself. He is going to be talking all about Ayurveda. So that's going to be a really special conversation on a topic that I know so many of you are interested in and wanting to learn more about. So I hope to see you then. Thank you, everybody. And Brittany, we can't wait for your series this week. Thank you.
Yay, me too. Thank you all so much. Good to see you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.